Hey guys, it's Psychosis here, and today I don't have an album review for you guys, but today I have a book review. And today I'll be reviewing Point Ultimate by Jerry Sohl. Yeah, it's probably a mirror effect, but it says Point Ultimate. The artwork's kind of goofy, and it's got all these dark colors, and this person looks to be a spaceship. And yeah, and this is just some random sci-fi book that I bought a long time ago from some online auction, and it looked cool, so I got it. And I just read it last night, and today I decided, oh, I'm gonna review it, and so that's what I'm doing. So today I'll be reviewing Point Ultimate by Jerry Sohl. What's cool about the author is I guess he was actually one of the writers for a show called The Twilight Zone way back in the day. That's kind of cool. Kind of like some surreal show, basically. But yeah, and yeah, so this book is actually really old. This is probably like one of the oldest books that I own. This book came out in like 1955. As you can see, it's really old, and it's so old, in fact, it even has like old ads within the book. But yeah, it's very old. Yellowed pages, and yeah, and it's not a fantasy book. I don't really like reading fantasy, but sometimes I read sci-fi, and this is a sci-fi book, kind of. It's kind of a goofy premise, kind of some predictive programming type stuff, but I thought the premise was cool, so that's actually why I got the book. And but it's also really silly. And so the premise of this book is it's set in the year 1999, so way ahead in the future for the author's time. But that's way past for us. But so the book's set in 1999, and it's in this fictional timeline where the US gets defeated by the communists in Russia, and everybody's both technologically way more advanced. So there's like heat weapons, sleeper guns, guns that make you fall asleep, just really advanced stuff. And so they wage war against the commies, the US does, but they become defeated because the communists somehow come up with this like super plague that kills everybody unless they get a booster shot every month. And of course, the booster shots are only made by the communist government. So the communist government takes over, and it's like 30 years in the future of that because it happened in 1969 and the timeline of that. And so it's 1999, and in this time frame, the communists have taken over. Everyone just accepts it. So everyone has to go get this booster shot every month, or they'll die from this bacterial pathogen. I don't even know how that works because it's so unrealistic, especially for the time frame. The communists didn't have the resources to make such a plague. We don't even have that today, and it's just unrealistic plague. But in the way pathogens work, but it's a goofy premise. It's kind of cool, and then that leads to the time frame of the book, set 1999, and the main character is this 26-year-old named Emmett Keys, and he's just tired of living where he lives with his farmer parents in Springfield, Illinois. So he leaves home to like try to find freedom fighters or a freedom cause he hopes to find and lead a revolution against the communists because he has this revolutionary spirit. And the whole book is basically his adventures in that. But as you can see, it's a really short book. It's only like 151 pages long. And that's kind of a goofy thing. I want to take a break from the one book I'm reading because I'm reading this bigger book. But this book is very short, very fast. It only took me like a few hours to read it. Once I actually sat down and read it, I could have read it actually faster, but I was taking my time listening to music while doing so. But yeah, and yeah, the premise is kind of silly, but it's also kind of cool because it's like a what if of what would happen if communists took over, and it's like absolutely horrific. Like the communists you have to have like a permit for everything, even to have children. You have to get a permit for marriage and all this stuff. So some of the stuff's kind of like what we have today, unfortunately, but some of it's like way over the top. And then the communists rule everything, and everyone hates them, obviously, but nobody does anything because they're scared. Some people just put up with it. You see that too. Some people just kiss their butt. And yeah. And then it's called Point Ultimate because of the big plot reveal at the end of the book. he find with the book, because the ending of the book's kind of good, kind of not. Emmett finally finds the people he's looking for, and they explain everything in the last couple of pages to him. But it doesn't end with the communist defeat or anything. It just hypes that up for the future. So I don't know if he ever wrote another book about it, or it's just at that. And yeah, it's up to the reader to decide what happens. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of the book. And he meets people along the way. Like I said, different people, differing beliefs. He gets in a lot of, Emmett Key's the main character. He gets in a lot of arguments with the characters. And yeah, his adventures are kind of fun though. He first goes on his adventure and walks for days through the countryside, and then he meets this farmer couple, but then the one male husband farmer turns out to be a communist collaborator, and then tries to kill him, and he kills him, and then he goes and gets captured by the director of the little district or county he's in, named this guy who's this fat guy named Neeson, and he forces him to basically become his massage therapist. So he's basically like an indentured servant against his will. But yeah, he has all this freedom to read all these books, classical books and stuff. It's kind of silly. And then he breaks free of that, and he meets other people along the way, and he falls in love with this dark-haired girl named Ivy, and he's just like obsessed with her like the whole book. And yeah, that's kind of like the gist of it. I don't want to spoil anything in case you ever come across this book and want to read it. Imagine it's kind of hard to find this book these days. It's really old. But yeah, kind of a goofy premise, kind of cool. And there's like flyer machines. They're just called flyers and stuff. And turbos are like cars basically, but more advanced cars. So basically it's like if the world was more advanced, but also not really, because the communists don't really care about like advancements like we care about, or space travel and that kind of thing, or aerial nautical travel. They don't really care, so they basically have regressed. It's, and like I said, it's goofy too, because there's like advanced cars and laser guns, but just not a whole lot else. It's just kind of a funny premise. And yeah, like I said, 150 pages. This book was really good, actually. I did enjoy this. It was a page turner for me. I actually was engaged with it, even from like the first couple pages. A lot more so than the book I'm currently reading. That's why I took a break from it. I'm reading this book that I'm going to review, but it's a long read for me, trying to get through it. But this book was really fast, not just because of its short page length, but it was really entertaining to me, I guess. I was like into it. The premise was cool. The main character is okay. He's just this rebellious kid, basically, trying to figure out his place in the world. And yeah, and the other characters are all right, because besides the fat Neeson director dude, he also befriends the cook, who's like this pro-communist cook who only cares about them because they give him everything he needs to make elaborate meals. And then he meets this doctor named Dr. Seltzer, who's like him, but who's given up because he's been there for like a decade and he's getting tired. And he kind of befriends him, Emmett, basically, in the book. And then there's like robots and stuff that too. They're like servants. And yeah. Just the one thing I didn't like is that because there's the whole marriage permit thing is insane, and so many girls in this book are getting pregnant without marriage permits. And because the doctor was getting in trouble so many times, he kind of in the book he was forced to do abortions. I don't like that. I didn't really like that. That's one of the things I didn't like. It was really awkward to read about that, and how the doctor uses crack basically to cope with it. I didn't really like that. And yeah, the whole communist thing was just annoying. A lot of, like, since it's a communist takeover, they say a lot of like pro-communist stuff, and I just roll my eyes because like I cannot stand communism as an ideology at all. But just yeah, it was just some goofy stuff in that like that, and then the ending of the book's kind of rushed basically. It's one of those because it's such a short book and it's so like page turning. I will say the ending's kind of rushed because like it's like, oh, this happens, here's a quick climax, and a few pages later they explain everything, the people he meets, and then you find out what's on the back of the book, basically. Yeah, there's no merit in the story until like the last couple pages if you do read this book. It's only 21 chapters, 151 pages. Very quick read. Goofy world, but cool premise, I guess. Kind of like predictive programming, like having to get booster shots and stuff like that. And an unrealistic pathogen, basically. Because if it kills that well, it would have killed all of them. And the body, then it doesn't credit natural immunity and stuff. And no one wants to talk about how the immune system's like, your immune system is one of the best pathogen fighting things on the planet. But yeah, so that's my review, basic rundown of Point Ultimate. I will say that I will give this book an 8 out of 10. It's really good. There's some goofy, cringy stuff in it and stuff that just is odd to me, because this book was written in the 50s and the author hadn't lived to see our time, I don't think. So a lot of it's all speculation what the time period is. I kind of would like it if some things like that, like laser guns and stuff, and more advanced cars and that, and hopefully better energy sources. But some of it's like, yeah, I don't want communism. Get that crap out of here. But yeah, good book. 8 out of 10. I would recommend it if you ever come across it. If you ever do come across this book, I would recommend it. But yes, that's my review of Jerry Sohl's Point Ultimate. 8 out of 10. I keep repeating myself, but it's a good book. It has flaws like everything. A lot more than I expected, but a lot less than I would expect too. A very good book. I'm glad I read it, because otherwise it would have sat on my shelf forever. And I would see myself reading it again, actually. But yeah, that's my review. An interesting premise with some goofy stuff and unrealistic things. Yeah, because like the main character is okay, and just the premise is goofy, and that thing with the doctor I didn't like. But yeah, at 8 out of 10, Point Ultimate, good book. And yeah, that'll be my review for Point Ultimate by Jerry Sohl. And I hope you guys enjoyed the review. And if you, like I said, if you come across the book, I'd recommend it. And yeah, if there's any other books you'd recommend me to read, I will read them. Or albums, I'll review EPs, that kind of thing. I will definitely review stuff. I always like trying to read new books, listen to new music, especially metal music. That's what I like, metalcore, that kind of thing, deathcore stuff. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the review, and I'll see you whenever I make a new video. Goodbye.